Hi, I am Ben Hobson, and welcome to my lab safety in the classroom presentation. Okay, so there are three key components in having a safe lab environment for students. The first of those is active instruction, which means that the teacher has gone over lab protocol with the students verbally. They've talked with the students, they've demonstrated lab safety protocol. They've done something to show students how to be safe in the lab. Um, Supervision is another key part that goes along with active instruction, so that during the lab, the teacher is moving from group to group, observing what the different lab groups are doing and make sure that they're doing safe things. They're using correct protocol, not doing anything dangerous. The third key is consideration for potential hazards. So by this I mean thinking about lab protocol, what makes this lab unique, and in that sense, why might those unique features make the lab a more dangerous environment, and what can the teacher do to prevent those dangerous situations? So there's a variety of different ways that a teacher can promote safety in the lab, all through active instruction, through supervision, and through the consideration of potential hazards. So I think the most obvious one is to go over rules as a class constantly before each lab. Teachers should review lab protocol with students, including general lab safety and things that might be specific to this lab, whatever particular lab you're doing. Um, this way, students are always refreshed on lab safety, and you're never just relying on them to remember things on their own. Um, Second idea is to display proper procedure yourself. Do so if you say something, you do it that way. If you tell students everybody wears goggles in the classroom, the teacher isn't the one exception to that. The teacher should also be displaying proper lab safety procedures. Um, Pre-lab activities are a great way to get to front load lab safety ideas onto students. Students can read through or write down proper protocols themselves, so they've sort of studied up on the lab and the potential precautions they need to take. Um, Safety videos are another great way to get to students. Just being sometimes instruction from another source is just more interesting to students. So a few ways that a teacher can be the example in safety is wearing safety goggles, like I said, but another one is a dress code. So if you tell students that they can't wear open-toed shoes in the lab, you need to make sure that you're wearing the correct footwear that day. If you tell them they can't wear sleeveless or short-sleeve shirts, you must adhere to those rules as well. And last but not least, a safety contract is a really common way to get safety protocol across. So something that you could do before each lab, or maybe it's something that you do at the beginning of the year. But it's a document that students can put in a folder or binder or a journal, like, for example, gluing it in the beginning of their lab journal, that you go over as a class. You have the class read through, and you have them sign it, and you have parents sign it so that they understand proper procedure. So while chemicals used in the lab can often be very dangerous, and we need to be aware of them, using equipment correctly is also very important. Broken glassware can easily cut through skin. So if something happens and a student drops a test tube or something, they shouldn't just be reaching down to pick it up, because they could easily cut themselves and then um, somehow severely injure themselves by letting chemicals into their bloodstream. Um, so broken glassware should always be something that is brought to the teacher's attention right away, so that they can deal with it. Students should never in any situation be handling that broken glassware. That should be something that the teacher does. They clear the area, have students move away while they sweep it up, and then once the teacher determines that it's a safe location, once they determine that the lab area is safe, students can return to their lab. So sometimes in biology, it can be common that that students work with foods in the lab to examine them for different properties or macromolecules. Um, so, food and drink for students should not be allowed in lab. Water bottles should not be allowed in lab. Snacks and gum should not be allowed in lab because those are easy ways to accidentally ingest chemicals if they contaminate your food source. Um, so if we work with food, that's something that should be brought up in our lab safety protocol beforehand and should be stressed that we are not eating this food that's in the lab. It's only for testing purposes, and all of it should be considered contaminated. Um, Accidentally eating food is just unacceptable. Students should understand the risk associated with such an activity. So lab is fun. That's always great, but our first priority is always safety. Before fun, we should be safe in our lab. So make sure that you are a safe scientist in your lab activity.